Does Noom work for weight loss? So if you are wanting to lose weight and considering using the Noom app, then you need to watch this video. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to be giving you the opportunity to sign up for my free emotional eating Facebook group where I help women with their emotional eating and binge eating problems. So let's get into the video. So Noom is an app which tries to tackle weight loss by adding in a psychology approach as well to help you get better results. And their ethos is helping people everywhere lead healthier lives through behavior change. And they claim it's the last weight loss plan you'll ever need. So is that true? So I've had a lot of negative discussions with people about the Noom app recently. So I wanted to investigate it and see what the app was all about and see who it can actually help and whether their claims are all they are made out to be. So as you know, weight loss can be very difficult, and the Noom app tries to take a unique approach to solve some of these difficulties and help you get better long-term success. So there are 3 ways that it does this. So number 1 is the short daily lessons within the app. So across the plan, you get a daily lesson which teaches you around psychology, some new habits and how weight loss works, and keeps you supported over your journey. Then you have the food logging. So the food logging is basically a way to know how much you're eating and basically measure your portions over the day, inputting them into the app and sticking to the guided calories that you are given. More on that in a second. And the third part is your accountability coach. So within the app, there is a message section where you get access to a coach. And this is someone that you can message and ask questions to, and again, get support over your journey. So when you first sign up to Noom, you get asked a load of questions to customize the plan to you and your goal. And some of the questions are quite interesting, like which diets have you tried before? And maybe that's to make sure that they know what people have failed on and maybe to customize it and make it better than that. I don't know. And also questions like how fast would you like to lose the weight? But also some questions I didn't quite think were enough. Like the one around activity was asking, for your job, do you sit down or stand up? So it's not very specific. So for stuff like that, I think it needs to be a bit more in detail, maybe like how many steps or how active are you during the day? Because of course, someone that sits down for their job may be still quite active in the rest of the day, you just don't know. And they're working out your daily calorie needs based on this. So when it comes to the Noom app and how much it costs, there is no free option. However, there is a 14-day trial in which you get a choice of how much you want to pay. And the cheapest you can pay is £1. However, they do suggest you pay more for that because of the cost to them. I don't know if this is true or not, but that's what you get. So when you sign up, you choose how much you'd like to pay for that trial. And then the actual cost going forward, I found it very difficult to find out. I did a number of searches online and I couldn't find how much it cost. I could only actually find out how much it cost when I signed up to the free trial and then was able to look into my account to upgrade and pay monthly. So the actual cost depends on how long you sign up for. And the minimum amount of time is 4 months, and that costs £88 in the UK. And I've done a full video on this up there somewhere, so you can get the full breakdown of the costs. Because if you sign up for longer, you get a cheaper monthly cost. But there's different options, so I'm going to go into that in this separate video up there. So once you are signed up to the app, you start going through the daily lessons, which start teaching you new habits and behaviors. These are split into 4 sections over the 16 weeks, which help you evolve your behaviors and habits over that time and become the person you need to be to basically lose the weight and essentially, as they claim, keep it off for good. One of the questions I liked in particular was the bigger goal, which takes it away from just the losing weight, but actually what you're going to be able to achieve and do that you can't do now after reaching your goal, which makes it more of a bigger picture. You then start logging your calories day to day in the Noom app. So it's a bit like other apps that count calories like MyFitnessPal, one of the most popular out there. So essentially, Noom is just a calorie counting app with some other stuff around it, like the psychology, teaching, and the accountability coach that you can message within the app. So one thing that Noom do differently to other apps is that they classify foods into one of three groups: green, yellow, and red, and help you eat more or less of different foods depending on the colour that they classify them as, to help you with your weight loss journey and help you get better at making choices around food. The idea is that you eat less of the red types of foods and more of the green, but none of them are cut out, and you can eat all three of them, but the app is suggesting you eat more of the yellow and the green. The green foods include things like fruits, veg, and low-fat yogurts. There are other foods, but these are just examples. The yellow foods are leaner kinds of meats, rice, and things like eggs. Then the red foods are more sugary foods. They are things like bread as well, and the fattier meats. So you can see there's a difference there, and they're trying to, like I said, push you more towards the green and the yellow foods, while you still can include some of the red. Like I said, the idea is you get feedback from the app of what to eat less of and what to eat more of. And through your journey, you are kind of learning and guided to reformulate your diet so you can lose weight. And you can still enjoy by not cutting out things. So some diet systems, some diet plans, for example, keto, will cut out entire food groups like carbohydrates, which leaves you feeling restricted. Whereas the idea with Noom is you don't need to do that, because you can still eat some of the red foods, but just in moderation. So that's how the Noom app works. So let's get into the nitty-gritty to see whether the app might work for you. So as I mentioned before, I've spoken to quite a few people recently who've had negative experiences with Noom, and they've not had the success that they initially thought they would have. And looking around the internet at reviews, there are mixed reviews, quite a lot of positive, but then equally a number of negative. And the Consumer Affairs website gives the Noom app a 2.6 out of 5 stars. So around half of people are positive and half are negative. So you can see there's quite a balanced opinion there and a mixed set of results. So let's dig into this a little bit more. So in my opinion, you can lose weight with anything as long as you are in a calorie deficit, so eating fewer calories than your body needs. Now, the long-term success is very different, because you have to ask yourself, the system or the plan or whatever I'm following, do I see myself doing this forever? Because if not, then the weight loss is going to reverse, because you will do it for that time. You maybe get some results, you maybe lose weight, but as soon as you stop doing it, you go back to your default eating behaviors, which is what made you put the weight on in the first place. So the system, the way of eating, the way of measuring food has to work for you day in, day out, forever. So you have to have a new way of eating that works for you, that you can do in life, in those stressful situations, when you're bored, when things happen. A default way that's easy. And this includes not cutting out any foods, not restricting your favorite foods, and an easy way to track the portions. Because if you're having to do something that, even if it's a little bit of effort, a little bit of stress, then on those difficult days, you just think, oh, I won't do it. When you can't do it, maybe when you've gone out with friends, or you're out and about, or you just don't know how many calories might be in something. You need a way to measure food that works for you, like I said, day in, day out, forever. And let me know if you've experienced this, but quite often what happens is when you have a day that is a bit more difficult to log in your app, you kind of have a day off. And because you've had that day off, your brain starts making excuses, because you're off the diet then, and it's like, oh, you've been good recently, have a little bit extra of this, or just make the most of it because we're off the diet today. And you end up binging and overeating and then often feel guilty. Let me know if you've experienced this down in the comments, but it's quite a big problem. And it comes from doing a diet, doing a system that is overly restrictive and having to measure portions in a way that, even though it's claimed to be simple, it can be quite sort of underlying background stress. I'd now like to go over 12 things which I feel holds the Noom app back, also based on what other people have told me. So negative things about the app which stop you getting long-term results. So the first thing, yes, of course you can lose weight with Noom, and the more weight you have to lose, probably the better results you get at the beginning as well, because you need these basic habits. However, the problem comes further down the line. So the question to ask yourself, like I said before, is can I see myself doing this forever? So ask yourself where you are in your journey of the weight loss, and if you are in the middle still and still being able to stick to it and follow it, then think of the bigger picture. Can I do this forever, and will I do this forever? The problem is sometimes it's difficult to see how you'll feel in the future. The actual problem is when you feel better, you're less likely to put effort into logging the food and the behaviors around it. And that's when you start to slip back into old behaviors. So the default eating behavior from before, which made you put on the weight, can often come back. And that is the big problem with a way of eating like this. So number two, again, in relation to this, the biggest thing that came up for people was that tracking in the app is a pain. And when something is arduous, you are less likely to do it for a long time. So when life gets in the way, difficult tracking methods are the first thing to go out the window. And because Noom tracks in this way, using calories, then when you have a difficult day, you're stressed, or you just can't count for some reason, you don't do it. And we call this the all or nothing mindset, so perfectionism. So when you can be perfect, you do it. When you can't, you just don't do it at all. And so you can see how this could reflect in your results. You're on and off the diet all the time, and you just don't get results because you're not consistent. So the next thing that came up was the food color system. So people complained a bit about this. So it's a bit like the Slimming World SIN system, where sometimes things just don't quite fit, but they're kind of put into some category. So what people found was that some healthy foods like nuts, seeds, and cheese as well were in the red category. And yes, they are higher in calories, but they are healthier foods. And this can lead to demonizing foods that are healthy for you. They're not junk foods, but they are put into this red category, yes, because they have high calories, but you can see how the mindset around these can then start associating these with foods you shouldn't eat. The way the system works as well is it allows you to manipulate it a little bit, so you can end up filling up on the low-calorie veg options to save up more for the red foods. So let's say like chocolate. And this is a bit like calorie counting in other apps, so we can end up saving up and having a little binge and still lose weight if you are within the calorie range. But this is still not healthy, especially for the body, but also the mind as well. Because then you feel guilty and you end up doing things you didn't really want to do. And yes, within the app, they suggest a certain amount of calories within each of these colors, but it's very easy to go off that. No foods are actually banned, but just having the color red is kind of psychologically saying this. And yes, you know you can still eat them, and they say still eat some of the red foods, but we are programmed to understand colors as certain things. So red means danger. And yes, again, they're not saying these are banned, but they kind of are saying don't eat so many of them. So you can end up feeling like you shouldn't eat certain foods. And the point here is you need to be able to enjoy all the foods. And when you have something that you really like it may be junk food, it may be things like chocolate, like that, you should be able to enjoy it and not feel guilty and not have that, oh, I'm eating a red food in your mind. It should be just food and not having it as like this demonized thing. People also reported eating similar things each day. And this is quite common with calorie counting apps because when it's difficult to do, like putting in all the calories you're eating from your food each day, it makes it easier just eating similar things. The problem with this is it can lead to lack of variety, lack of interest in the diet, and deprivation from some things that you may actually want to eat. And so for long-term success in the diet, this is not a good way to kind of think or the mindset to have, and often leads to straying away from the diet because, I'm just bored of it now because I'm eating the same thing all the time just so I can track it and make it easier. One thing that came up a lot in the reviews was that the Noom app doesn't allow for varying daily activity. And like I mentioned before at the beginning, when I first signed up to the app, it asked me, do I sit down for my job or do I stand up for my job? How active am I? But this doesn't allow for actual sort of activity because I may sit down for my job, but I might be quite active in between or on the weekends. What if I am a sedentary person, I sit down quite a lot for my job, but I do a lot of walks in my breaks, I go for a walk in my lunch hour, I have some sport in the evening, do hiking on the weekend. It doesn't allow for this varying activity. And the problem with this is when you are eating too low calories, when the calories are set low, then you can get hungry. And again, it can make you sort of not want to stick to the diet. It can make you eat things above the calorie allowance. It can make you be hungry all the time and just not enjoy the process. So this is kind of a shortfall in terms of how many calories you should need. The next thing came up was actual calories set. So a lot of people told me that when they put their data into the app, it set them a very low calorie number for the day, so around 1,200 calories. And like I just said, if you're eating too few calories, you're going to feel hungry and just not feel very good. So it's going to make it harder to stick to. So I put in some test data into the app. So I said I was a man who weighs 86.1 kilograms and I would like to lose 6 kilograms. And it spat out 1,400 calories per day as my allowance. And again, it didn't allow for my daily activity. So what happens if I was, let's say, a marathon runner or someone that did a lot of activity? That is way too low for someone like that. So I wasn't quite sure how they calculated this. And from what people have said, the number is very low for a lot of people. Another really important thing that came up was the need to weigh every day. So the app requires you to weigh yourself every day. And I'd like your opinion on this. How do you feel on having to weigh every day? Let me know down there in the comments. So for me, the problem with this is, firstly, your weight every day doesn't say anything about your fat loss because it goes up and down every day due to a number of factors: water retention, food in your digestive system, all the things that make your weight go up and down every day, which are no indicator of your actual fat loss. So you can't tell any progress day to day. Weekly is better, but then monthly is even better because for women especially, day one of month one versus day one of month two is much better kind of representative. And if you look at this graph actually for one of my previous clients, where we see the weekly weight loss, and then I average out to the monthly weight loss. So taking those numbers from the 4 weeks in the month of the 3-month progress we work together, it looks so much straighter and nicer than the up and down of the weekly weight loss, which is a reflection of just numbers going up and down for other reasons. She didn't put weight back on, but it's just the fluctuation in weight is different to actual fat change. That's very important. And for a lot of people, weighing every day has negative effects on how they think and feel, because a lot of people will attach their self-worth to progress. I need to make progress to feel enough. And if the number is not showing what they want to see, then it can affect the whole day, how they feel. And when you feel a different way, when you feel negative, it can affect your behavior. And of course, if you have negative behavior, then it's going to affect your eating, your activity, and quite possibly your subsequent results. So seeing a negative number on the scale, or a number you don't want to see, can often make your progress go backwards when it shouldn't do, because it might be just masked results. You might have been losing weight, but you might have had a fluctuation of water, which said you put on a few pounds, and it made you feel bad and made you change your behaviors, which weren't necessary. And you might have been on progress, you might have been on track, but because of weighing and seeing that every day, it had that negative effect. So it's very important for me. This is quite surprising that they ask this. And they say they do it because in some studies they read, it showed better progress. But for me, it's not a good thing, and you shouldn't be weighing yourself every day. Weekly is the maximum, but monthly is better, just to get a better result. So you can look at your weekly weight, but not put too much on it. And then the monthly is a better kind of indicator of actually where it's going. So this leads me on to emotional fitness. So this is something that Tony Robbins speaks about a lot. So emotional fitness is the ability to have resilience, the ability to move through life and tackle obstacles, to work towards your goals and not let things affect you, to be in control of your emotions and be able to move forward without being pulled around all the time. So having this resilience to get you through to what you want. So the Noom app claims to have this accountability coach. So within the app, the messaging system where you can send a message. So I tried this out and I sent a message, and 24 hours later, I still haven't had a response. And one of the reasons for this might be the number of new members they have to deal with. So I had a look around on some forums where some of these people have spoken about what they have to do for their work within Noom. And some of them have up to 550 new members to deal with. So that's a lot. And imagine you have 550 people to deal with. You can't build a connection. You can't really help them. You can't be building that rapport and that speed in replying that someone might actually need to get help. And this is really important. You need to be able to work up here and build that emotional fitness over time so you can be resilient and not let anything hold you back in terms of moving towards your goal. On that note as well, and this is really, really important, there's no help in the app with actual emotional eating and binge eating. And for a lot of people, this is a really big problem. So having those urges and cravings which pull you back in the opposite direction, make you eat things that you don't really want to eat. And even when you're enjoying something like a bar of chocolate, you end up going overboard and you can't control yourself. And using apps like Noom, which require willpower, can often make the problem worse. And I've explained this in other videos. I'll pop one up there somewhere. But that's a really big problem for some people. They can use the app and lose a bit of weight, but end up ingraining these behaviors which make the binge eating and emotional eating worse. So they end up in a worse place than when they started. And on that note, I have my free Facebook group for women where I teach you every week some things around emotional eating and how to solve it, why it's there and what to do about it. So if you would like to join that, I will put the link down there in the description and I will accept you into the group. And a lot of people say to me, when they have these cravings, it's like the devil comes out on their shoulder and shouts in their ear, and the only way they know how to get it to stop is have that chocolate or have that ice cream or have that thing that is shouting for them to eat. And they don't really want it, and it's stopping them moving forward because they're constantly being pulled back in the opposite direction. And it's really frustrating for them because they want to move forward and lose weight, but they're being pulled back the whole time and they feel lost and not knowing what to do. So that's why I've made the group and the extra help there. And finally, as well, a lot of people complain that Noom is quite expensive for what it is. So the first 4 months, if you sign up for the minimum period, are £88. And some people have kind of described it as just glorified calorie counting. So similar to the MyFitnessPal app, which is free. And I don't advise to count calories, so don't go and use that instead, but just wanted to make that point. And yes, Noom offers some of these extra features, but like I said, they don't help as much as they claim to. The messaging isn't great, and a lot of people have said that the information, the bite-sized lessons you get each day, you can find free on the internet as well. It's just information that is quite common, even though they've packaged it into the app. So is Noom the last weight loss plan you'll ever need, as they claim? So based on what I've discovered and speaking to so many people, it's just another way of counting calories. And you can see my review on calorie counting up here. But you always have to ask yourself, can I see myself doing this forever? And what happens when I stop doing it? And remembering you'll feel different when you feel like you lost some weight. So if what you're doing is effort, too much effort, you'll often give it up in the long term and revert to your previous eating behaviors and revert to your previous habits, revert to your previous weight. That's why people go backwards. So yes, in the short term, you might lose some weight, and the short term for some people could be longer. But remember, it doesn't solve emotional eating as well. So if you're getting those urges, cravings, and you're binging, it doesn't solve that. It doesn't work on the emotional fitness, being resilient and being able to tackle life and be able to think in a way that helps you move towards your goal. And it doesn't help you eat in a sustainable way that is easy and does fit in with daily life and can work in every situation. And remember that weight loss is an emotional problem overall. So your thoughts, decisions, action, behaviors are driven by how you feel. So we are not robots. We are not designed to put numbers into an app and act without emotion. So when the stresses, the thoughts, and like the feelings get in the way, you don't always follow it. And that's where people get thrown off, and that's what affects the long-term results. So that is my opinion. That is based on the reviews I've read around the internet, and also based on speaking on the phone to hundreds of women who have tried different things to help them lose weight. So let me know in the comments what you think about Noom. If you've started it, if you've used it, if you're thinking about using it, I'd like to know your opinion. And that is it for now. So like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.